All right, I'm here with Joseph Hicken, the OG prop farmer, the creator of the Prop Farming AI trading system, and we've got a lot to cover. In this interview with Joe, we're going to be talking about prop firms and why we still believe this is the greatest asymmetric bet in trading. Joe's going to be going over the power of AI in trading and actually giving you a live demo of our AI leaderboard. Then we're going to be talking about actually making money and how to get up in our blueprint to making $3,200 per month, and then how to scale that way beyond that point. And then the last thing we're going to be talking about is how to cut your downside risk to almost zero when trading with these prop firms, which is the secret amongst these billionaire traders that most retail traders kind of stupidly ignore. And since the last time we did this demo overview, we've helped over 700 people become funded traders. We've estimated our community's been funded over $107 million or more at this point. And we've helped countless people now make it into our 7-figure funded club, meaning they've been funded over $1 million worth of trading capital. People like Sarah Chan from the UK, she had signed up for trading signals, but never really made any money. She was new to trading. She got a hold of this system that we're about to show you, and she's been funded over 7 figures. And she said that this has been completely life-changing for her. She left her job. Or people like John Silks. He was an office equipment technician from Missouri. He got a hold of this, got funded 7 figures. Now he's doing really cool things, traveling with his parents around the United States while they're still alive. So some awesome stories that have come out. So before we get in and actually explain all this, Joe, why don't you just start off for people that may be new to this and maybe explain really quickly what are prop firms, how do they work, and why do we still think this is the greatest asymmetric bet in trading?
Thanks, Adam, for the introduction. Prop firms, they're basically companies that are looking for traders to trade their money for them. They're looking to hire day traders to trade their capital, and then they split the profits with those traders. And so it's a great opportunity for traders that can prove themselves as good traders because they don't have to put up their own money to fund these, their own trading accounts. Rather, they can trade other people's money and still participate in the profits and capture the, upside. So it's less risk with more profit potential that way.
And so give us an idea, how do these prop firms work today for somebody that's brand new? Like just a quick rundown in 30 seconds. How do these things work?
Yeah, so basically you're going to have to pay a test fee, and this is going to range anywhere from $50 to $500, and it's a 2-phase test. And so you are aiming to get funded anywhere between $10,000 or up to $1 million sometimes. And you basically just have to follow their risk limit. So they're going to say you can only lose so much in a day, you can only lose so much overall. And if you're able to achieve their profit target while staying within those risk limits, then you can get funded. And once you're funded, then you get to trade that funded account and you get to keep up to 80% of the profits. And the best part about this is that you as the trader are not liable for the losses because you're not trading your own money. You're trading the prop firm's money. They've already accepted that as long as you can prove yourself and pass this test, then they're going to take those losses and hope that you make profits for them.
So the reason we love prop firms and trading with prop firms is because this concept of asymmetry. The best traders in the world, they're looking for asymmetric risk reward. And what that means is that you could risk a little bit of money, but potentially make a lot. And that's what these prop firms allow us to do. So now when we heard about prop firms, we got all excited about this. I remember, Joe, and passing these tests that they put out there are really not that easy, right? The statistics, like only 6% of people that sign up for a prop firm test actually end up passing and actually getting funded. So I remember it wasn't too long ago when we first started hearing about these things, we tried to pass a couple manually, ended up failing. And then I kind of had this idea like, hey, what if we could build some sort of robot or automated trading system that would give us better odds at passing these prop firm challenges than we had by ourselves. And so I went to Joe with this problem. I was like, hey, let's try to build something like some sort of bot or some sort of system that could pass these automatically for us. And pretty much for the past 4 years, Joe's locked himself in his dungeon. He's been working away at this thing pretty much nonstop. And 2 years into it, he had really nothing to show for it. But I remember I get a call from Joe and he was all excited about it. And he's like, Adam, I got this thing. And he's called it his Golden Goose strategy. So why don't you explain to people what that initially was and then kind of how that ended up evolving into our leaderboard that we'll show in just a sec.
Yeah. So like Adam said, passing these prop firm challenges, it's really, really difficult. Very few people are actually successful in doing so. Or if they are, then they don't actually make money. And so we were thinking, how can we systematize this? How can we not only improve our odds of passing the challenge and making payouts, but also how can we do it automatically so that we don't have to spend our time staring at charts? We've got families, we've got jobs. Like, we want to figure out a way to automate this if possible. And it really sounded too good to be true at the time. I remember, we looked on the internet to see if there was any other solutions out there, and we found a few, but they really weren't that good. It kind of felt like we were better off just trading our own money, manually. And so, yeah, like you said, that's when we kind of came up me and a couple other of our members in our community came up with this golden goose strategy. And essentially what it was is this strategy that we found to have an edge in passing these prop firm challenges, and was able to do so at a much higher rate than if we were to go out there and try to do it ourselves. I think the pass rate for this strategy was somewhere around 50%, which, given the asymmetric risk to reward opportunity, can be extremely profitable. And we're going to go over that here in a second. But, so we had this strategy that we back tested, and it seemed like it was really good. And so it was now time to take this to the live market and see if it actually worked in the live market on a real challenge. And so I remember we did that, and it was so amazing because it actually worked. We actually passed the challenge, all hands-free, all automated, using our robot and this golden goose strategy. And it wasn't just me. It was another guy named Casey, who was working with me, and another guy named Shaq and Smitty. And we all were able to do this. So it wasn't just this one-off fluke. We were able to do it consistently. And it was really, really amazing. I remember we had the opportunity to then introduce it to more and more members, and we just, the results, the testimonials, it was overwhelming. It was incredible.
And so, as great as this was, and again, to put that into perspective, when we first did this, we got funded $100,000 worth of capital. We were like seeing money signs in our eyes, because even just doing 3 or 5% on that 100 grand, that's like $3,000 or $5,000. And that guy that Joe mentioned, Shaq, he ended up actually getting funded $1 million. So if you can imagine that, like some of these people that have made it to our 7-figure funded club, like Joe, I know Joe did on our YouTube show. He showed him transparently kind of documenting this process. He did it in actually 14 weeks, which was pretty amazing using this system. But again, 3 or 5% on $1 million, that's life-changing, right? $30,000 or $50,000 is pretty insane. So I remember I get this phone call from Joe right after the Golden Goose, maybe a month after, and he calls me up and he's like, Adam, as good as this Golden Goose strategy is, I don't think it's going to last. And I remember when he told me that, my stomach like dropped. I was like, what do you mean this isn't going to last? This is the best thing that we've ever created. And so we kind of were talking on the phone and put our heads together. And Joe was telling me the story about how he had recently bought a Tesla and how he bought the self-driving package on it. And he was explaining how Tesla's building their self-driving cars. And he said that he'll engage autopilot, but if he has to manually intervene, it will disengage, and there'll be an option that pops up on the screen that says, hey, do you want to send this data back to Tesla so that way we can further improve our self-driving cars? And as he was explaining this to me, I was like, wow, this is genius. Tesla literally has thousands of customers that are all driving supercomputers, sending data back to Tesla's central database and further improving their self-driving cars. And so it was at the same time where I was like, well, Joe, what if we could do the exact same thing that Tesla's doing, but what if we could do it with our trading robot? What if we could take all the customers that are trading our system with prop firms, and what if we could send all that data back to one central database so that way we could see which strategies are actually working best right now to pass prop firm challenges, and even better yet than that, but what if we could use this so that way when the market does change, we can actually change and adapt with the changing market, which was the problem that we saw with so many of these other bots is they'd work for a while, market would change, and they'd stop working. And so that's when we decided to come out with what we call our Prop Farming Leaderboard. And just to give you an idea, over the past 4 years, Joe's been working on developing this. And in hard costs alone, this cost us over $2 million to develop. And so it's something that we're really, really, really proud of. So Joe, will you go ahead and share your screen and explain like what this is and how it works and why it's so awesome?
Yes, absolutely. Let me figure out how to do this. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So yeah, like Adam said, the big problem we were trying to solve is that the market's always changing. And so just because a strategy works today does not guarantee that it's going to work tomorrow or next month or for any amount of time into the future. And so we needed to figure out a way that we could constantly be adapting with market conditions. And what better way than to capture, all of the data that's already being captured in our community through back testing and live trading, put it into a centralized place, And that way users could quickly and easily see which strategies are working in the current market conditions and which ones are not, which ones to avoid. And so that's essentially what this leaderboard is. So you can see here, here at the very top, we've got different prop firms listed out here, or different brokers. And you just simply click on whichever one you want to use. And then it pulls up this list of hundreds of strategies that you can choose from. And the ones that are ranked at the top are the ones that are working the best right now. So we could look at this strategy. It's Bruce Wayne. This was created by one of our members in our community, actually. That's one of the cool things too, is that, community members are contributing to this. We've got a team of optimizers that we've hired internally that are constantly backtesting every day that are contributing to this. So we always have a flow of, high performing strategies available for users. And so this here is the ranking of the strategy from 1 all the way down. This is the name of the strategy, the version of the bot that it works on, the symbol, the time frame. We can see that the pass rate and the recency score. So there's lots of information on here. My favorite thing to look at is this results page, because you can see very clearly how this strategy would have done if you started the strategy every day. Would it have passed or failed? So if I started the strategy on 12/4/23, it would have passed. If I started it the next day on 12/5, it would have passed, and so on and so forth. And you can see it's not perfect. Sometimes it would have failed, but for the most part, it's passed. And this has a 91% pass rate overall. In the last 12 weeks, it's been 88%. And you can see that we've got backtest data, and then not only that, but we've also got out of sample live market data. And this is really important because we know that strategies that work in backtesting don't necessarily convert to the live market. So all of this up here is backtest data. And then you can see these little arrows here next to these dates. This is out of sample data. So this is just after the backtest, we loaded it up and then kept track of how it did. And right out of the box, it failed. But besides that, it's been doing extremely well. It's passed all of these times, all the way up until this current date. So this gives a lot of great information. It also tells us how often is a strategy taking losses, just to kind of, prepare yourself for that. So this is taking, on average losses 3.55 days, basically. So about half the time before actually passing. And so, yeah, like I said, this is my favorite thing to look at, to just kind of get a general idea of how each strategy works.
And by the way, if you want to check out the data and how the strategies are actually performing, you can see that at leaderboard.bluedgefinancial.com, and you can take a look at how strategies are performing. Okay, so Joe, continue on there. Did you want to show how easy it is to set up?
Yeah, so we've made this really easy to set up. So basically you just click on that little download button there, and then you can just select whatever account size you're running for your challenge. So most people do 100K challenges, some people do 50K, but I'll just do 100K here. And then the max loss and profit target you can select. It's usually, already pre-selected for you, so you don't even have to worry about that. And all you do is you just come down here and click this little download button, and that will download the file to your computer, which I will then simply copy and then paste into my, it's called a VPS. So this is my VPS. All of this is actually set up for you when you join and become a member. Get on an onboarding call with one of our live chat support agents, and they help you set all this up and help you get started. So that really all you have to do is simply drag and drop the robot onto the chart, okay, just like this. And then you'll go to the inputs button there. You'll click load. You'll just paste it in here just like this, paste, and then you'll click open and click OK. And there it is. And that's pretty much it. This is all set, ready to go. You can see that strategy name right there, Bruce Wayne version 1.0_1. So that's loaded up. It's ready to go. It's all configured. And yeah, at this point, we just simply wait for it to take a trade and watch it until it hopefully passes.
So the really cool thing about this is not only are we outperforming like the vast majority of people that are trying to pass prop firm challenges, but most of our traders do this entire process in under 1 hour per week. It's really not that difficult. Joe's done most of the hard work, right? Where all you have to do is download a strategy that you like, upload it into your terminal, and then begin trading, which is really, really awesome. So now that you guys have seen the leaderboard, let's talk a little bit about actually making money. So let's talk about this roadmap to $3,200 per month, and then how to scale way beyond that, and what's realistic with what people can actually expect. So Joe, do you want to talk about some of the results that you've seen and how people can kind of get to this $3,200 per month mark and beyond?
Yep, absolutely. So for me, I needed to keep track, just like starting a business, right? You need to know your expenses and you need to know your revenue. And that way you can determine, how much can you expect? I mean, first of all, is the business profitable and how much can you expect to make from this business? And so trading is just like a business. You need to know your numbers, right? And so what I decided to do was go out there and, carefully document my funded rate. So I went out and I took 70 live challenges and I wanted to know what was my pass rate for phase 1, what was my pass rate for phase 2, multiply those pass rates together to ultimately get this funded rate. The higher my funded rate is, then the more profits I can make, essentially. And so after taking 70 live challenges, I found that my funded rate was 50%. Now, this was during a winning period where I would say we were just very in tune with the market conditions, and it's always going to fluctuate. Sometimes the market conditions are changing rapidly and we're just trying to keep up. Other times we're just, it's all working really well and it's a lot easier to keep up with these changing market conditions.
And just to put that into perspective, that's like, imagine you have like a magic quarter and it costs you $500 to flip this quarter, but every time you flip it and it lands on heads, you get funded $100,000. You'd probably flip that quarter all day long, which is really, really amazing.
I also wanted to, take challenges during more of a losing period to kind of give a range of what I could expect in terms of funded rate. So we had kind of a down period at the end of last year where I took 34 live challenges and my pass rate dropped to 50% for phase 1, 59% for phase 2, and that gave me a 29% funded rate overall. And so from this, and this is not just a small amount of data, right? This is over like the last 2 years. We're very confident in saying that our funded rate can range anywhere between 25% and 50%, just depending on those market conditions. Just to kind of put that in perspective, again, the average person that's taking one of these challenges, only 6% of the time are they actually getting funded. Whereas for us, we're getting funded 25 to 50% of the time, which is actually extremely, extremely good. And just to put that even more into perspective, there's a guy that actually, Adam, maybe you can explain better than me because you know more about him.
Yeah, right. Just to put that into perspective, some of you say 25 to 50%, that's not really that good. That's less than a coin flip odd, but it's actually amazing. This guy named Pascal. He's one of the most successful prop firm traders in the past few years. He's made like over $3 million in withdrawals. He's been really, really successful. And essentially, he took 41 challenges. And of those 41 challenges that he took, 12 of them actually became funded accounts. So he actually had a 29% funded rate. And this is like, I'm talking the 0.001% of manual traders. Like, he's arguably one of the best prop firm traders that's in the game right now in terms of manual trading. And Joe was able to get that same funded rate on a losing period, which is pretty incredible. Anyways, just to put that into perspective. So now let's break down this math, Joe. Would you break this down for people? Like, what does this actually look like? How do you get to this $3,200 per month that we've been talking about and then beyond? And the reason I say $3,200 per month is because last year, the average single person that lived in America, their living expenses were $3,200 a month. Yours may be higher or lower depending on where you live. But my definition of freedom, which I know is the reason you're probably watching this video, the reason why you're trading, is because you want financial freedom. And when you can have enough passive income to equal or exceed your monthly expenses, then you're really free and you could do whatever you want. You don't have to necessarily work a job. You could spend more time doing the things that you love. So let's break this down, Joe, the math here.
Yeah. So let's say you're taking a $100,000 challenge, and typically that's going to cost you $500 to take the challenge. Now, if we have a 50% pass rate, that means our cost per $100,000 funded account is going to be about $1,000, right? Because you fail one, you pass one, you're going to have to spend that $500 twice to get funded once. So our average cost per $100,000 funded account is going to be $1,000. Now, if we can make just 4% on that $100,000 account, that's $4,000. And, we're going to get an 80% profit split of that $4,000. So that's going to leave us with that $3,200. So basically, with the 50% funded rate, it's going to cost us $1,000 in order to make $3,200. And I put the plus sign there because, we can actually make much more than this if we could take multiple payouts. This is only assuming one payout. So the average profit could actually be much more than $3,200 on that, single funded account. Let's also look at if our funded rate is lower than that, because we know that's kind of like the top end of our range, of 25 to 50%. So what if we're more like in the middle or even below middle at that 33% funded rate? So it's the same cost, $500, right? But now we're going to have to take 3 challenges on average to get funded once on average. So the cost per $100,000 funded account is going to be $1,500. Okay. That test fee, we're going to have to take 1, $500, 2, $500, 3, $500, $1,500 of tests in order to get funded one time. And again, we make 4% on that $100,000 account. We get the 80% profit split. That's going to leave us $3,200. But now our cost has gone up to $1,500. So you can see how our funded rate is directly correlated with our cost. So the higher our funded rate, the lower our cost, and the more profit we can make. Now, what if we're on the very low end of this funded rate, right? And it's 25% only, right? Well, then it's going to cost us $2,000 per 100K funded account. And our cost is going to be $2,000 in order to make $3,200. So that's basically kind of what you can expect, I would say, in terms of costs and profitability. And really, it's just a game of probabilities. Okay, so we're just kind of flipping that coin. Whether it's a 50% of funded rate or 25%, we're just continuing to rinse and repeat because we know that we have an edge overall. And regardless of whether it's 25% or 50%, we're going to be profitable, right? And so we're just continuing to rinse and repeat this process over and over again. And you can even multiply these profits by doing this more than once. So you can have multiple of these challenges going at the same time, or you can be trading multiple funded accounts at the same time in order to just multiply your profits.
Right. And that's what a lot of our most successful members do is once they get funded one time, they have like this one little profit center, and then they'll get funded again, and then they'll get funded again, and then they just keep rinsing and repeating this process, getting more funded accounts, which gives them more profit potential. And that's how you scale beyond $3,200 per month. But what if there was a way where you could actually cut down your downside risk, meaning that cost that we're paying or those test fees that we're losing? Because that's the worst part, right? Is if you pay the test fee and then you fail the test and then you've lost money, that's the worst part, right? So what if we could get rid of that and cut our downside risk to almost zero, so it didn't cost us anything in terms of challenge fees to get a funded account? And I know that sounds like a hypothetical world, right? And that would be like, imagine you go to Vegas and there's this one magic blackjack table. And at this blackjack table, it's magic because on winning hands, you get to collect your chips. But on losing hands, you don't have to push your chips into the dealer, right? I mean, you'd sit there and you'd play blackjack all day long, right? And this is kind of what billionaire traders and investors do, is they really obsess over not how can I make as much money as humanly possible, but they obsess about how do I cut my downside risk as much as possible. And this allows for asymmetry where they can risk a little bit and potentially make a lot. So Warren Buffett has a famous saying. He says, rule number 1 is don't lose money. And rule number 2 is see rule number 1. So how can we actually apply this when it comes to this whole prop firm trading game? And the way that we're going to do this is by using a concept called hedging, okay? And we created this really cool little piece of software that we apply on all of our prop firm challenges that does all these calculations for us automatically and does all the trades for us automatically, so we don't have to worry about it. But the way that it works is that we'll have 2 accounts. We'll have our prop firm challenge account that we're trying to pass. And then the second account will be a small personal account that will fund with just a little bit of our own money, okay? And this is a real life case study. This was me using the hedge bot. So you can see here it was a $100,000 challenge that I was taking. The challenge cost me $500, okay? And as you can see here, I actually failed the test, okay? I lost the 10% target here, which is dang, I lost $500. But the cool part is, if you see on this account, I'm taking all sell trades, but on my personal account at the same time, I'm taking all buy trades. So all of my losing trades now became winning trades on my personal account. So actually I lost $500 on the prop firm challenge fee, but at the same time, my personal account, this one actually ended up making $606. So I actually ended up getting paid $100 to fail this prop firm challenge, which is amazing. And this has been one of the biggest advancements that we've made, basically cutting our downside risk to almost zero. And we'll teach you more about this inside once you become a member and all that sort of stuff. And I made other videos on our YouTube channel so you can see more about how that works. So just to kind of recap what we've talked about here so far. Number one, we talked about prop firms, why they're so powerful, how they work, why this is still the greatest asymmetric bet in trading. We talked about the power of algorithmic trading. Joe gave you a demo of the leaderboard and how that actually works. We talked about the road to $3,200 per month and beyond, and then how to cut your downside risk to almost zero, which is one of the secrets of the billionaire traders about how to cut their downside risk. That's what they obsess over. So anyways, if you're not yet a member, then go on over to www.propfarming.com, or you can see more info on our main website at blueedgefinancial.com as well. And you can apply to see if you qualify to join. But Joe, thanks so much for being on here. And I hope all of you guys that are watching this found this helpful.
Thanks.